broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans, producing aftershows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Hey guys, and welcome back to AFTERBUZZ TV's Walking Dead. I'm here with Derrial, Christon.
What's up, everybody? How you doing out there?
Who's back from the dead again?
That's right. I'm
you just
back
keep
from
on
the
dying and
dead.
coming back.
I
again.
know. It's Halloween last week, or this week, I guess I should say. But I was preparing for it last week.
Spooky Halloween coming back.
That's right.
And unfortunately, Joyce and Nando both can't make it this week. Joyce is sick, and Nando is busy.
Yes.
I don't know how he could be too busy for this. I don't even know. Don't ask me.
He was in the hospital in this episode, right?
He was. That's what I hear. He was in a pretty crazy hospital. Actually, hanging out with Beth.
Exactly.
I don't know. Would it be Officer Nando or would he be Scrub Nando like Noah?
We're gonna give him Scrub Nando.
Scrub
we'll make
Nando?
him more Noah than
You think
Gorman.
more Noah? What
Yeah.
about Joyce? Would she be Officer Joyce or Scrub Joyce?
Let's make her.
I go Officer Joyce.
I say
yeah,
Officer Joyce.
Officer Joyce.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go ahead and jump into the episode. As you mentioned, Derrial, we start right in the hospital, which is where Beth appeared, which right away some shady stuff going in. So first we meet Officer Dawn Lerner and Stephen Edwards. Stephen Edwards being the doctor taking care of her, and this is in the Grady Memorial Hospital. And we find out that Stephen healed Beth of her wounds, and basically they claim, at least Dawn claims to have found her being attacked by walkers, and they saved her life, so Dawn says. Question is, do you believe her? Because this is something that I've been wondering all episode. Do you think maybe they actually captured them, Beth? Because Beth was captured, as we saw.
Right.
So do you think maybe this was the group that captured Beth, or do you think she actually was left out somehow and they saved her?
See, honestly, the whole thing was so shady to me. I honestly felt like they had captured her. Like this was the group that actually had captured her.
Guys,
Yeah.
you see the hearse at the end when they're escaping. Yeah, you see all the vehicles with the crosses on them, so you know for a fact that they're the ones who captured
Well, now I feel like a fool. So
Well,
there
that
we
was
go.
when we were writing notes. So
Yeah, that's the thing. Like sometimes we're writing notes, so like I was down writing notes during the scene with the car. So, well, there we go. Answered for us. Thank you, Steven. Fact is that this is the group that captured them. So I thought from the beginning it was shady. So I feel silly now, but thank you, Steven. So yeah, so apparently this is the group that captured them for sure, as we see the cross in the back of the car.
yeah, and then for just like a little bit of a fact for the people who watch Hello Ladies on HBO, the officer Dawn Lerner was played by Christine Woods, who is also one of the stars of Hello Ladies. So.
Yeah, and we get just how much corruption is going on then just from those crosses alone, but the fact that this is a super, super corrupt place. We also have HW View on the chat, sad that Joyce isn't here, saying, "Damn it, Hydra!" I believe that's in relation to another show that Joyce does. I think, does Joyce do S.H.I.E.L.D.? She
I'm not
might.
sure.
That would be a S.H.I.E.L.D. thing. So anyways, basically Dawn lying now that you were alone and we saved you. So she's asking also if Beth remembers everything, so possibly testing to see if Beth remembers the fact that she was captured by them. So as we get our tour of the hospital, first we see this man who was found under the bridge with Stephen, and Beth is with Stephen here. And he finds that there's no sign of this guy improving, so he makes the call based off of Dawn, apparently, that they're going to let this man go to save resources, which is a very common theme we're going to get throughout the episode, which is going to be incredibly important. On the chat, Bart J. Braswell saying, "Someone captured her. How did she not remember that?" And HW View saying, "Yes, she does remember. So maybe she was just keeping quiet about it."
She knows that she got knocked out in the house with Derrial.
Well, right. She knows she was knocked out, but the point is she doesn't know this is the group.
But she knows that she woke up in a hospital after being knocked out in a house, and their story says she was on the side of the road.
Right, which is incredibly suspicious.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So she's probably playing dumb.
She's playing dumb, I think.
Yeah.
I feel like she could have played it better to inform the audience that she's playing dumb, because I just don't believe that the character would go along with that story so easily.
Bahaha Val saying, "Bart, since she was fighting with walkers, she probably didn't notice them, and then they knocked her out." Wasn't that during the entire confusion, though? Because she wasn't just in the house. That was after they burnt down the house and all that.
Right.
I think it was during the confusion of all that she got knocked out.
You're right, actually.
So that would mean that maybe she really doesn't know.
Maybe she doesn't know. But.
Yeah, so it's questionable, but I mean, definitely everything surrounding the situation is very, very questionable to her. And she's keeping pretty quiet, though. She's not letting out too much about the group she was with or anything like that. The only she asks about is Derrial, to see if Derrial's with them. So,
which is a smart tactic for her. You know, she doesn't want to give too much information, obviously, because of the fact that she doesn't want to jeopardize that group either.
Right.
You know?
Wait a second. Am I remembering this incorrectly, guys? They burn down the shed, right?
Right.
And that's not when she gets taken. They go to a house that's like barred up and full of food and everything, right? That's where she gets taken.
Yeah, that's where she gets taken. You're right. It's at the house that's full of food, but there were walkers. There's something going on
outside.
Yeah,
there actually was a point where they got into trouble and they had to fight at that house with food.
Yeah, but they were in the house when she got knocked out, is what I'm trying to remember. Because I remember the cabin. They burned the cabin down.
Right.
But this is at a different place, and they're in the house, and walkers get in the house, and that's why they start.
Yeah, but we don't know exactly. Again, this was a year ago since I saw this episode, so I'm really sorry, guys. I know Joyce actually just saw it recently. If only Joyce were here. Joyce! Why did Hydra have to capture you? So anyways, the thing is, I don't know, because I don't know if we actually saw what happened when she got knocked out and taken away. We see Derrial's perspective, and then we see the car flying by with Derrial, like, that's clearly who took her, is this car with the cross. But I don't know if we actually see Beth's perspective of how exactly she got knocked out, or who, because we don't see who took her either.
Yeah.
So it's possible maybe she was outside during that point of time. So yeah, I'm honestly not entirely positive, to be perfectly honest. Sorry, it was a year ago when I watched that episode.
Yeah.
So regardless of, though, I mean, it is plausible, though, that she might not know who took her, because she was fighting walkers and it was probably a chaotic situation. But she definitely is suspicious. I mean, you see that right in the beginning. She seems suspicious. So anyways, she's with Steven, who is showing her how things work. And one thing, as he takes her out to show her that they drop all these dead bodies into the elevator.
The elevator chute, yeah.
The elevator chute, is that he calls them rotters. So we get yet another name for walkers from this group, is it's rotters that they call them. Brett J. Braswell, by the way, Steven is saying the funeral parlor. However, Steven's point about the side of the road still holds true. So I believe to you, Steven. So,
and then what also I found interesting at the beginning, it almost seemed like they were slightly brainwashing Beth to me. Almost,
I agree with you.
You know, like at the beginning they were saying, if we hadn't saved you, you would have been one of them. So you owe us. It was like, you know, they kept reinforcing things to her. To me, almost it seemed like they were really trying to brainwash her into their system of things and make her believe certain things about what they were doing.
I completely agree with you. It does seem like brainwash from the very beginning. I thought the exact same thing. That it's just like, we saved you, therefore you have to help us. It was very controlling. So yeah, it definitely seems like that's their system, is just take people that they find and then trick them into doing their bidding, essentially. So we get Officer Gorman here, who is very much in this system. He's one of the officers who seems like the officers are really the ones who are the most corrupt here. Or maybe the only corrupt. Well, we get more corruption, but he says that he saved Beth, claiming they saved Beth, and he wants her appreciation, very much hinting that it's sexual appreciation that he wants, and saying as she's taking the food, that for everything you take, even food, you need to pay for it.
Save something back for you.
So it's very much a loophole that they've created within this system, which is like, even for eating, you owe us. So it's like there's nothing you can really do, because to survive, you owe them constantly. There's no way you can really get out of this. From the way that I look at it, at least. When Beth has a conversation with Stephen Edwards, who's bored, and she's saying that's lucky to be bored. That's really nice. And Steven being one of the few kind figures that we see here, sharing his food with her, keeping it quiet, and talking about the way that he tries to get back at Dawn, which is by keeping things messy, which we get a little bit later, but still. And we get this whole conversation about art, which is a pretty good meta conversation within everything that's happening, which is that art isn't about survival, it's about transcendence, being more than animals. So him having that art piece there is clearly him trying to be a little bit more, be a little bit better than everything that's happening around them.
And there was something about Dr. Steven, I never really trusted him from the beginning, though. There was always, you know, there was this underlying thing with him that just was existing to me, that it just seemed like there was more. He was being nice to Beth, but it was something more hidden behind it, which we sort of find out later. Yeah,
it definitely seems like he's being a little too nice, almost, like, especially in this world. That seems like
you can't trust anyone.
Yeah, and you're so used to the hardened person, almost like the hardened people are the people you can trust. So someone that nice is just like, I don't know about that in this world, this day and age. Can't be that nice. So we get this person coming in, Gavin Trevitt, who's a new survivor. And Stephen Edwards immediately, without even really paying any attention to anything, saying that he doesn't think they can save Gavin Trevitt. And Dawn, really pissed off, taking it out on Beth by slapping her in the face. Okay? So saying, try to grasp the stakes here. So apparently this one specific person is incredibly important, which we end up finding later. He's another doctor. So we find out that Stephen Edwards knew this. So the question then is, if Dawn says, try to grasp the stakes here, it seems like Dawn must know that as well if she finds this one person to be so important to take care of. Yeah,
I took it that she knew about him being a doctor early on.
Right, so yeah, it definitely seems that way.
And then it also seemed like, I mean, Stephen mentioned the fact that, you know, you'll get into a little bit later, I want to jump, but the fact that he was kind of threatened by this other doctor. And what I didn't understand is, why couldn't there be two doctors? It seems like there's going to be patients in and out of that hospital consistently. Why not? Why is there two doctors that are not available to be there? Is it just that Stephen wanted to be the #1 and have everyone come to him? But
well, I mean, I think it's the concerns they express, especially when you see just how horribly corrupt everything is. The fact that, like, this really is his only safety net, is that they absolutely need him. So if they don't absolutely need him, then there's another option. Then there could be someone like Officer Gorman, as he points out, who could get an idea of, like, well, I didn't just kill this doctor. We got another one, so it doesn't matter because I don't like this doctor because he's not doing my bidding.
Right.
So I guess that would be his concern. That'd be my guess.
Yeah.
I mean, this other doctor is an oncologist, and I guess it very much also depends on your profession of doctor for how well you can treat certain things.
Right.
So I'm like, I don't know. You get a urologist. Are you going to trust that doctor as much with general practice medicine?
Probably not.
You want a general practice doctor, probably. That's like gold mine. You're like, I got my general practice doctor. That's what I was hoping for, like a surgeon. A surgeon would also be good here, possibly, being how much limbs they have to cut off and things like that.
Yeah, I would say so, especially after what they, had to do this episode. So.
Yeah. HWView saying maybe the doc wanted out, and Bahaha Val saying, yeah, for security reasons, and they don't boot him out. So, yeah, I guess I'd say security reasons, but yeah, it sucks, but I can see where he was coming from with that, just for the sake of, like, well, if there's only one, that means I'm 100% guaranteed safe.
Right.
If there's another one, maybe I have a 50% chance of being safe and not booted out or something happening. Especially because he's been defying them for a while. It seems like he's pretty comfortable being like, I've got my messy room to drive Dawn crazy. It's okay if I sneak food to Beth because I'm the only doctor, and he really plays that card.
Yeah.
That he can do whatever he wants. He really has free reign. He's the king.
He's the king.
The king. I don't want another prince coming. I'm the king. So we get this new woman here who we find out later on is Joan, and she's absolutely pissed at the officers, like really going crazy as they need to cut off her arm as it looks like she's been bitten. And it seems like specifically possibly Gorman that she's pissed off at, which we find out reasons for later. That's going to tie into the corruption that's going on. So a lot of really bad corruption here. But after this, we meet Noah, the Lollipop Guild, and we find out another nice character here. So Noah, he has an injury in his leg, or that could be an issue, leg injury, and basically breaking down for Beth what's really happening, that Dawn is in charge, but like there's all these other officers who are making it so she might not be that much in charge, and a lot of issues there, and basically explaining that, hey, they could have saved more people than just me, but they didn't.
Right.
They didn't save my dad, who was more powerful.
Yeah.
So,
and that still goes back to me about the brainwashing, because it was like kind of tying it all back in. And that Noah character was played by Tyler James from Everybody Hates Chris, for the people who were formerly his fans.
So for once, we're getting actors who aren't from The Wire.
Right. They had a lot of guest appearances this time.
Yeah, a lot of guest appearances not from The Wire.
Right.
Being very specific about that, because people point out just how many The Wire actors have been on the show recently.
Oh, that's true.
So Dawn ends up bringing food for Beth and wanting to have a peace treaty and explain how everything works and the way that, hey, nothing's free. This is her system here, which, I mean, in a sense, it does make sense. Like, yeah, everything's hard to get. Everything you have to work for, so therefore you should work. But it's a very manipulative way in the way that they do it. Because, I mean, even with, like, Rick in the prison, like, everyone had a job. Everyone worked. Like, you took care of the farm, you were the walker duty, who you would, or I'm saying in the prison, not, yeah, so in the prison, like, you stabbed people in the face, or you took care of the farm, or you taught the kids. There's always a duty, but when you explain it the way that Don explains it, it just makes it a more militaristic system.
Yeah.
Definitely more than just like, you know, I mean, in general, people do want to be helpful in something like this, but when you do it this way, it's just too much.
It's set up in the way of like these work camps that they used to have back in like the 70s and 80s. I can't give you like a specific example, but it's where you have to pay your way.
Yeah.
So let's say you have like $15 in debt, and the Yakuza kind of employs this in a way, is you have let's say you have $15 in debt and you're there to work it off, but they make it so you have to buy stuff to work. So, you know, you have to pay for $50 worth of stuff before you can work. So then you have $65 worth of debt, and every day you only make $6. So then you're paying that off, but then you're paying $7 for food every day. So they make it impossible to ever get out of your debt.
Right, which is, yeah, absolutely exactly what this is. When she says, like, eating is... you have to pay for food.
Right, yeah.
And it's a total loophole.
I think Don even said to Beth, like, try to look at the good we're doing. If we take, we give back, it's only fair. You know, type of thing. So it's like, I guess one hand feeds the other.
Yeah.
Hypothetically.
Right.
Literally.
So, yeah, definitely this, as you said, Steven, like, very Yakuza way of doing it, which just, I don't know, maybe you should think about making people a little more happy to be there and they'd actually want to stay. But, I mean, Dawn is concerned about her protectors, which are the officers, which are the #1 priority, as we keep on seeing and are going to keep on seeing throughout. So...
I think what they're also trying to do here was, with the police uniform, kind of give the juxtaposition of where how Rick treats his group when he's in a position of power as like a police officer, and where this woman takes her in like the opposite direction of the greater good.
It's very fascist.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a fascist militaristic way.
Yeah, but to me, like when you look at Rick, you see a direct leadership. With Dawn, I didn't really see a direct leadership. I mean, yeah, she was the head of this group, you know, but to me, it was loose. You know what I mean? Like she didn't really. I didn't feel like they were really scared of her.
Yeah.
Like Gorman, you know, like you were saying, the things that he was doing, I think that it was because of the fact that he really didn't respect her that much, honestly.
I mean, he also basically makes threats right in front of her.
Right.
Just like, well, when she's gone and she walks right up behind him. But, yeah, I mean, the other thing with Rick, too, is he's a leader for sure, but he's not someone who's going to make you stay with him.
Right.
Or even, like, he allows people to question him. And you can leave if you want. It's not something where you have to stay with him. It's just if you're with him, this is how we do things, but you don't have to stick with me. You can do whatever you want. So also we get more of this too with as Beth is cleaning up the blood of Joan, and Joan kind of talking about Dawn in this exact situation, exactly what you were saying, Derrial. She can control them, but doesn't because it's easier. So it's exactly what you were saying as she's talking about Dawn, the fact that she doesn't control these officers because it's easier to just let them do what they want. And therefore, like, as we're going to get to it, just rape, for example, with Gorman. So, hey, as long as they're happy, then they won't cause her trouble. So it's just easier that way. So might as well let it happen. So that seems to be what we're getting. So, and then we get Gorman once again implying this, and that's the scene that then comes up as Beth is cleaning, doesn't find a lollipop under the bed, and it turns out Gorman has taken it, and forces the lollipop into Beth's mouth, which... Why didn't she just back away or something? She really let that happen.
I mean, honestly, it goes back to kind of what Steven was saying a little bit earlier. I think that she, or maybe as you were saying it, I think that she kind of is just playing into it.
Yeah.
And I think that it just
to allow him to
think that he has the power and the control, and then later on, you know, she really has the control and the power, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that allowing him to feel that way did pay off in the end, too. Because when he found out, like, oh, I can force this lollipop in her mouth, then it doesn't seem as surprising when he thinks he can force other things.
Yeah. And how uncomfortable did you feel in that scene? That was like a very uncomfortable scene to watch, especially when he takes the lollipop back and puts it in his mouth and kind of just sucks on it and chews. I was like, all right.
That was like the grossest part to me, too. I'm just like, that was just in his mouth. That's gross. At least just don't put it in your mouth first. Ugh. So yeah, pretty uncomfortable scene. But yeah, as he says to Dawn, the girl should have been mine.
Yeah. So
just really doesn't care. It doesn't matter to him. He'll say what he wants. So, and then we get him talking about Joan. So basically issues with Joan that he's gonna have whatever he wants. Basically, he doesn't care. So that's when Beth asks why does Steven stay? So we get everything now, Steven's backstory. So it turns out with Steven, he was in the hospital when everything shit hit the fan, and there was all this mayhem going around outside, and the officers were the ones who took control. And we had this officer Hansen, who who was in charge beforehand. He was the one doing everything. When Dawn, I believe it was implied to me that Dawn killed Officer Hansen.
Yeah.
He said took care of him, but
Yeah,
I took this.
I took it as he was killed by her.
Yeah. So did that for Dawn to take control. So this other officer taking control. And I mean, Steven's saying that Hansen went crazy, but it's kind of like a who knows if that's really what happened. Maybe Dawn said he went crazy to take control. We really don't know.
Yeah, I don't believe anything that's coming out of their mouths this this episode.
It's very much like, what can I trust? Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. You can't trust anything here. So he explains that they couldn't help, for him, they couldn't help people because there weren't enough resources. So this is kind of how the system came into place, was that he wanted to help people, but they couldn't. So they ended up taking someone in by striking a deal. And the deal was that this person helped them out. They would use their resources to save him. And by doing that, eventually this guy went crazy, apparently, but that was the deal that they struck. So apparently this deal kept on staying in place, was, hey, we help you, you help us. And it seems like that was the origin. And it started possibly a little more pure until it went straight militaristic and then capturing people, kidnapping people. But it started like you get the reasoning behind it. Like, hey, we don't have enough resources, but there's got to be a way to implement this and save someone. Yeah. So, yeah. So it sounds innocent enough from Steven. So that's his entire backstory. And then he also shows why he never tried to escape, which is in the ground floor. We find out that, hey, there's walkers, you try to escape, there's just walkers everywhere, and they never tried implementing the prison system of just stabbing them through. It's kind of what I was thinking, is why not just stab them through the gates?
That's what I was thinking. Like, I mean, it seems like there would be some ways that he could get out of there, but I guess, once again, he feels more protected being there. Yeah,
and you also know, as a Walking Dead viewer, like, oh, well, you could also just coat yourself in walker blood and escape that way, but obviously if you haven't lived through that and tried that, you wouldn't know that. So this group wouldn't know that, but Beth maybe would know that. She might know that. I'm like, I don't know if there's been a situation where she's been around them doing that. Because we saw Carol do that, and we saw the group do that a couple times.
And didn't Michonne do it?
Michonne did it,
but I don't know. Yeah,
but I don't know if it was around Beth.
Yeah.
So it is a question of who knows all of that. Baha Haval on the chat also pointing out that it was disgusting with the lollipop thing. And what Brian Lee pointing out, what Steven was describing, is like sharecropping. That is how they kept slavery alive after the Civil War. Yeah. So, yeah, really bad system. Just that loophole system of making you work for an impossibility. Just this giant loophole that is never going to work out. Right. So, yeah, that totally is like sharecropping. So, regardless, after this whole scene with finding out Steven tells Beth to use clozapine on this other doctor who we know is a doctor, and we rewound. We wanted to make sure that absolutely was what he said, and it definitely. I mean, but at the end of the episode, I wanted to rewind it right away to make sure. But at the end of the episode, it's very clear that he did do this on purpose. But he tells Beth to give the guy clozapine, and clozapine ends up killing this person, causing him to seize out and die. The doctor, yeah. So he tries to play it off like, no, I told you clonazepam. I might be butchering these names so bad.
Yeah, it was clonazepam.
Did I say it properly?
You were pretty close.
I hope I was close. So, yeah, so he tries to play it off like, I didn't do it. So we do find out later. But, yeah, so I just want to rewind to make sure it absolutely was clozapine. They said it first, so yes, it was.
Yeah, clozapine was the first one, and then clonazepam.
Yeah.
There you go.
So
say that 100 times.
Clonazepam. So after all this, we get Dawn then beating the crap out of Noah, who tries to take the blame for it. And Dawn says something about the ventilators and knowing that Noah was lying because of the ventilators. And I wasn't sure exactly what that was, but maybe she could hear things through the ventilators. And she also says Noah was a terrible liar. So I'm sorry.
Steven, do you know? Do you remember that part?
Which part?
We were trying to figure that out, actually.
About what?
About the ventilators?
Like, Dawn's saying that Noah's a terrible liar, and she says she knew about the ventilator.
Oh, she's saying she knew he didn't do that. She knew that he was covering for her.
Okay. I mean, I guess, like, maybe...
it seemed like it was more to it at the time.
It seemed like there was no more to it, but I guess that's all it was just a cover-up. So, they, anyways, after that cover-ups, she tells Beth that you're not the greater good, and that everything that she's doing is for this greater good. She keeps the officers happy to keep them going, and that is the most important thing because the officers are the most important thing of all. So
yeah, she mentions in here you're part of the system,
right?
And she said, you know, every sacrifice we make needs to be for the greater good.
Yeah, and this again hinting that, like, hey, you're part of the system. Keeping the officers are happy is the most important thing. So she doesn't care about stuff that's going on with Gorman, for example, like the rape and stuff. And that also does bring up a point where in the beginning of the episode, we get Beth walking through with music playing, and she sees an officer leaving a door, and in the door is another woman, and then the woman shuts the door as Beth looks in. So it brings into question, was this other officer having his way with that woman, and that was just another instance of rape going on
Yeah, I
within
mean,
the
I take
system.
it that that's part of the full system for them, and, you know, it's just part of them with the male officers there. So, and then it was also with Dawn speaking to Beth, I know it was a lot of her saying that Beth was weak. She kept referring to Beth being weak, and which I found ironic because to me Beth is stronger than Dawn is. Of course, she doesn't know that, but it still went back to that brainwashing part of the entire episode of just trying to like instill in her the system, keep her weak, you know, and those type of things, and keep her kind of in the platform of what they do at the hospital.
I totally agree with you. I completely agree with you. So, right, so. Like, to me in the beginning though, that girl was implied to me like definitely part of that system,
some
and
sexual relations
right.
going on.
So I mean that's what Beth could be, and that's how she could be of use. It's just keep the officers happy. So Noah's now with Beth and saying Dawn needs to Dawn needed Trevitt for something, and they basically, that's where I think Beth pieces together that he was a doctor.
Yeah.
But at this point they're now going to escape together, and he tells Beth about this key that so Beth goes to get the spare key, goes into Dawn's office where she finds a dead Joan. So Joan is now dead, implied to be Gorman who did it. So as we find out very soon, where she finds a picture of Dawn winning some sort of award, which would apparently means a lot to Dawn.
Yeah.
And in that moment, Gorman coming in, trying to have his way with Beth and being like, hey, I don't care. You can take the key as long as, you know, keep me happy. It's all good. And it's nice maneuvers by Beth in that moment.
That was pretty good. Yeah, I mean, okay, so here's my question though. With Joan in that part, she had scissors in her hand. She had something in her hand.
Well, it was Joan had scissors in her hand. Joan did, but I think Beth kept on looking down at it like, oh, that's something I need. And she saw the hand moving with Joan.
See, I took it as Beth was looking at her because she knew she was going to turn. So she was trying to stall until Gorman, you know, because she wouldn't let Gorman on that side of the table or of the desk.
No, I thought that could be what she was doing too, but it was just like, it was either like she was looking at the scissor shot specifically. I thought maybe she's like, oh, I could use those scissors, but then as soon as she saw the hand move, it's like, oh, there we go.
Yeah.
So she used that lollipop jar to her advantage. Lollipop's coming back right at you, Gorman, and smashes it into his head as she starts letting him think that. So again, it actually comes into play that it was a good idea potentially to make him think that he had control with the lollipop before. Because now it doesn't seem that out of place that she would let him do it again. And use that to his advantage when Joan gets revengeance. Metal Gear Solid revengeance. Lets him have revenge, basically in her afterlife on Gorman as she chews him up, and uses that distraction to escape with Noah. And they go to the elevator chute together, and Noah's got this this nice bed sheet style.
It never looks sturdy at all.
Yeah, it's like a prison breakout. It's like, oh, the prison breakout. There we go. That's what you always would see for prison breakouts, is they're using to tying the bed sheets together, and that's what they're going to use. That's all I was thinking.
That's what it was looking like, pretty much. And then I was like, this guy, I mean, you know, he's a lean guy, but he didn't look, you can be lean and have muscles, but he didn't really have much, to me, appear much strength to, like, carry her. I kept thinking, like, either Beth or he is going to fall.
Yeah, he's really holding up her entire body weight. All the things tied to is one post, so if that's not his body weight holding her up, she's gone. I mean, he was using the wall to his advantage to try and help give him leverage. But yeah, I was like, I don't know if you can really, like, it's a lot of weight, and if it's slippery bed sheet, that could just slide through your hands.
That's true.
Hey, good on him for doing it. So Noah pulls it off, and as he's climbing down after he gets Beth down safely, that's when trouble arises with a walker, and he falls. And fortunately, he's okay. And at first, like, you think maybe, like, he's injured his leg from falling, but then you have to bear in mind that he does already have a leg injury.
Yeah.
So it could have just exasperated this injury that he already had.
Yeah.
Which I think is definitely a possibility. And Beth, it turns out, at first the whole time I was thinking, like, why did she only grab a flashlight? That's all you see at first.
At first I didn't know if she grabbed the gun or not.
Yeah. So, turns out she did grab a gun, so good thing on her. Baja Val saying that Dawn, by the way, lets other cops do what they want with the people they bring in. So, yeah, she deserves to be taken out Gareth style. So, I don't necessarily disagree. Birthday Braswell, once Beth got that gun, I was hoping if you cut off the head off the snake, you're in a good position. Oh, so, like, maybe kill Dawn, I suppose, with the gun.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that's where you're pointing at with that, Bart J. I guess, like, there's so many cops, though. You don't know how many cops there are, and you keep on seeing cops. So, like, even if she killed Dawn isn't really even in charge. You still got all these other corrupt officers.
As we saw kind of at the end.
Yeah, who they're all getting what they want, so why would they want this system to break? Especially if all of them are like Gorman, which we don't know. But if all of them are like Gorman, they're just going to be like, all right, good, now she's gone and we can do what we want. Yeah. So I don't know if that's... When you have an army of officers against you, that's not necessarily the best idea.
It's not the best idea at the time.
All right, so might as well just escape and get out. But the whole time I kept on thinking, but they left the rope. They left the rope.
They left the rope.
Right, so...
And then also when they finally got down the chute, and when, of course, you're going to probably get into that when he fell, when Noah fell.
Well, let's go ahead and go into it.
So Noah falls, of course, and then they're both down in the basement of the chute. Now, Beth had the flashlight going on. I was thinking, like, wouldn't the walkers be more attracted to the light? You know, that was a little bit of a flaw to me, because I was like, the walkers would see the light and come towards them.
The light or the noise of them falling, too.
Or the noise of them falling.
Because, I mean, we saw earlier, too, with, like, that one clang.
Yeah, they were everywhere.
Yeah. So, I agree with you. I was like, interesting they didn't hear the fall or the talking or see the light.
Yeah.
But...
Because they weren't quiet.
Yeah, good thing Beth can apparently see in the dark and kills all the walkers as they escape out that are in this elevator shaft to more walker infestation. And at first it seemed like Noah was going to be a goner. It's definitely like, oh, I don't know if he's going to be the one to make it. He's the one straggling with his injured leg. But turns out, fortunately, all the walkers were going for Beth, and Noah was able to escape as we get Dawn taking out walkers to, this time for real, save Beth. Because Beth would have been gone at this this time she actually did need saving. But as she's saved, Noah seemingly escapes unless he's captured again. But as he escapes, Dawn captures Beth, and they have a conversation together. And you see Beth give Noah like a little smile when she was kind of down too. Like at least someone got out, so she did some good. So Brian Lee saying, by the way, did anyone wonder why Beth was looking in a file cabinet for a key when most keys are in the desk? And Baha Val saying, yeah, Brian, I guess she thought they would be hidden, but she should have checked the desk first. She did find that key card, though, that she was staring at. She did find the key card, yeah. And I wonder if that's going to come into play somehow. Yeah, maybe it gives access. I was thinking maybe it gives access to some other portion. Yeah, I was thinking that, too. I was like, well, maybe it was a key card she was looking for because that's what she took. Yeah. But, I mean, I don't think we saw her use it. Did we? No. So maybe that'll come into play because she did take it. She did take it. So yeah. I wonder if that'll come into play. Yeah. Brian Lee saying another plot hole. How many bullets did that gun have? I was just gonna say that. I was like, how many rounds did she really shoot? You know what I mean? Yeah, maybe it's 12 caliber. Maybe. Snagging 12. I don't know. I was thinking the same thing. I was trying to count, but then I got distracted by notes. I thought she used up all of them inside, but she did run out eventually. Yeah, because I was like, she didn't get any more bullets. She didn't like take a round of those bullets, off of him. So. Bart saying about the right amount. Not sure why she didn't run fast. I don't know. Good question. I guess she didn't think she could outrun that much of a swarm or get past all of them. Well, I also she's no Glenn. Glenn's the runner. I also took there was a part of her that still was trying to kind of like help Noah. Yeah. You know? I felt like she didn't want to go too far ahead of him. I agree with you. It did seem like she was really focused on helping Noah. So in her conversation with Dawn, she goes right into Dawn's face and says, "No one's coming. We're all gonna die." And all this is for nothing. You let everything happen for nothing when Dawn's just not taking any of it. Starts beating the crap out of Beth. And that's when we have Beth confronting Steven about Trevitt, and he ends up admitting to us, as we already talked about, that Trevitt was a doctor and he was an oncologist, and Steven was just concerned and afraid that that would be it for him if anything happened. So but why didn't they go after Noah? That's the question I was wondering too, and you asked that while we were watching, and maybe they just figured like he wasn't doing much and he wasn't worth it.
I just felt like
all he did was clean
laundry. It just seemed like it made it too easy. Like you went through this whole thing because early on in the episode, Dawn had mentioned how he was her smartest worker. You know, he had done all these things, and how she really wanted, like when she was having that conversation with Beth, and how basically she wanted to kind of keep him, and she knew that Beth was lying about the whole thing with the doctor, with killing the doctor, and he kind of took the blame for, or he took the blame for it. But I couldn't figure out why they let him go.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess like maybe they just thought it wasn't worth the hassle or the bullets or something like that for like why save him or kill him. Yeah, that's a great question. Bart on the chat saying Noah is on one leg and he got by easily. Maybe because she was shooting down the walkers near him. Yeah, I'd say that's why Noah's able to get away, is because Beth did seem to be focusing on that. Yeah. And I agree with what you were saying, Derrial. I think Beth was trying to help Noah escape.
Yeah.
And focus on him. But yeah, so as the episode wraps up, we get Beth with a knife walking up to Steven. So it seems like she's almost going to possibly kill him. You're not sure what she's going to do when we see Carol getting rolled in. So
that was a nice little ending scene there.
Yeah, so apparently, I mean, if we know what they do and how they get people, they must have gotten into some scuffle with Carol and Derrial, and somehow captured Carol in this scuffle. You have to assume that's what happened, because that's how they seem to get people.
Yeah, and then, you know, as we've been watching this episode and even the previews from last week, we kept hearing the voiceover of Derrial, and, you know, him having that conversation about telling the story of what happened, or if Beth was alive. And so I found it interesting at the end with them pulling in Carol kind of towards that last scene, because it makes you kind of wondering what's going to happen next, as far as like when they show the episode of Derrial walking in and you don't know who he's walking in the woods with. So
yeah, and that definitely, to me implied, I mean, this would be a prediction thing, I guess, but yeah, it definitely implied to me like it's probably Noah who he's with, and he's like trying to get the group and rally the forces, like we got to get Carol and Beth. So that would be my guess. But Brian Lee on the chat saying, oh yeah, when he mentioned that St. Peter had to lie to be had to lie or be crucified like Christ, well, in the end Peter did die and he was crucified.
Yeah.
So
was Peter the one who was crucified upside down? That was St. Peter, right?
I'm Jewish, so I don't know. Sorry.
I just thought it was funny he was telling that to a daughter of a preacher.
That's something I really should know. It's just a history thing to know. Yeah. But
it's okay.
Yeah, I feel.
Yeah, it was St. Peter who was.
I think it was St.
crucified
Peter.
upside down.
Yeah. So I guess maybe that implies that Steven's gonna get his in the end, anyways.
Yeah.
I think everyone's probably gonna get theirs in the end.
Beth included.
No, I mean everyone at that hospital.
Everyone in the hospital.
Hopefully all the cops. I mean, it seems like the patients are just getting taken advantage of. I don't know if any of them are to blame per se, like that one woman who we saw in the very beginning of the episode. So I'd say it's mainly the cops who need to get theirs. What's coming to them?
Well, I just also found it interesting that the whole thing with them is like, okay, so Rick is obviously, you know, the leader of the group, but he doesn't walk around in his uniform, and the you know, Don and this team walks around in their uniform in this, trying to get this civilization feel back in order when there's no civilization. You know what I mean? It's like it was that part was interesting, because it's like the way that they both do things are two totally opposite ways of doing it. And I just didn't know the reasoning behind like why they felt like they felt like that's going to keep them in order, you know, because it's just non-existent.
I mean, I felt, again, it was that militaristic feel of just, keeping them in order. And it was like they always had their equipment on them. Because, I mean, that's why cops were there. They had their belt on them, too, at all times with a gun in it and things. So, like, no one can challenge them. And that's how they're able to always have their ways. Because there's always cops around everywhere who have guns, who have some way to take them out, like probably a baton or some, like, whatever equipment you would carry, to always have your way and be able to, so it's like they're basically just prisoners.
Yeah.
Everyone who's in the scrub is a prisoner. So that would seem to be what it was to me. It's just like that's how they're going to keep them in order, so no one can rebel, no one can get away. It's just, hey, you try and rebel against this one cop, that cop you're rebelling against has a gun, but not only that, but so do all the other cops around. So there's just nothing you can do.
There's nothing you can do.
So yeah, it's just very much a militaristic order, and definitely them trying to brainwash them and saying like, oh, we're helping you, when they're really just taking advantage of everybody.
Yeah.
So, and then the doctor's just a wuss, as people in the chat are pointing out. Also, Brian Lee saying, real question, what was Beth about to do when she was walking down the hall with the scissors? And the question is, do you think she would have attacked and killed Steven, or do you think she was going to maybe go for Dawn? We saw her focusing on Steven.
I think what her goal was to ultimately kill Steven as a thing like, now you guys don't have a doctor, what are you going to do now?
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
I think that's a great point. That definitely would be a good motivation.
Although Dawn did slap her twice in the episode.
But their whole power structure is based on Dawn and the doctor.
Yeah.
So what does Dawn have without the doctor? If they're in a hospital with medication they don't even know how to use, people would probably lose all her power. And my question is, what was his name? Gutman? Gorman, yeah. I feel like when you look at the problems Rick's group had in the prison with semi-normal people and how people there was always drama, I feel like if you have a guy like Gorman, they would have had to deal with that problem a long time ago.
Right.
If he's treating people like that.
That's true.
But I feel like all the officers were doing that, because I guess my implication that I got from the beginning when we saw another officer walking out.
It was all of them, yeah.
Right, like it was another officer taking advantage of this unnamed girl that we see.
Because we literally rewinded to see if it was Gorman specifically, but it was a different officer, so it definitely was.
Yeah, we rewinded specifically to see if it was Gorman, to see if it was Joan in there, and she actually got in there beforehand or something. But yeah, it's just different girl, different officer, so. Yeah, to me, that's why I was saying, like, implies that every one of these officers is like that.
A little corrupt.
And those poor guinea pigs.
And those poor guinea pigs.
But they taste so halfway decent.
Right.
So halfway decent. Steve is okay with it, though. He gets to have the feast. The King Steven.
King Steven
Lemieux in the booth. Has all the power.
Oh, yeah, it's too many Stevens.
I have a nice big painting in here, too.
Yeah. If you ever saw inside the booth, just a painting in there. It's all messy, and he actually calls all the shots. There's only one Steven. There's only one guy in the booth. And if there were another one to challenge your position, you would kill them off.
Yeah, I'd probably just hunt them down.
There can't be any other possible booth people. Otherwise, that means I might have to go.
That's right. But, also this episode, it started off a little slow to me, but then, especially coming off of last week's episode, I mean, it was just, I watched the episode like 4 times last week. I loved it so much,
Yeah.
And I get it, how they needed to tell the story of what happened to Beth, but I'm hoping that next week's episode picks it back up to kind of where we were.
Yeah, I agree with you. I hope that next week's episode picks it back up. And it looks like, and I guess we could go ahead and talk about predictions in next week and all that stuff then.
I kind of felt like this was very Orange is the New Black.
You call it Grey's Anatomy of Walking Dead?
Grey's Anatomy meets Orange is the New Black. So, yeah, I definitely, I hope next week's more action-packed. I mean, we saw that it's going to be Abraham and Glenn in that group for next week, so it seems like, it looks like from the previews, it's going to be really action-packed as they all had guns out ready to find new areas and try and find safe places to be. But I guess, like, I'm hoping that as far as this hospital thing that we have going on now, because it looks like they're going to do separate groups now, like, we're going to very specifically have episodes that this next week's episode might only be focused on Abraham. Yeah. And that's what I think is probably going to happen. But
I will tease it tonight, though, that we have Josh McDermott joining us in studio for the after show next week. He plays Eugene, the scientist. Yeah,
Josh McDermott is coming back?
He's coming back next week for the after show.
All right. Well, there we go. Yeah, Josh McDermott was here last year as well, so that'll be great to see him again.
Good to see him.
Mullet Power. But yeah, I do think next week's going to very specifically be that group. But I hope when we come back to the hospital in 2 weeks' time, that's going to be my assumption. So I think next week, specifically Abraham's group, my prediction is in 2 weeks, what it's going to be is Derrial met Noah somehow, and he is back with Noah, and he's going to recruit all of Rick's group to go to the hospital to save Beth and Carol and take care of things. And that's my prediction, and I hope that that's a one-episode thing as well.
My prediction is that Carol is going to actually take out Dawn.
Yeah?
That's what I think. I think Carol's going to take out Dawn.
That'd be cool.
Do you think if Beth is like, oh my god, we got to save her, she's really good, if that's going to be a threat to Dawn, though?
Do you think they insert somebody into the hospital? Like, do you think to get in because there's no way really in and they have guns, they're going to make somebody get captured?
That could be.
Maybe.
Or if Carol actually is already that?
That'd be interesting.
That would be a nice little
if they actually used her as like a...
Like she's the guinea pig, but to do it.
Well, I guess the guinea pig's not the best one.
maybe
hopefully not the guinea pig. So this will be Bart saying, I have to wait 2 weeks for the storyline to end. No! Well, I mean, that's just my prediction.
Yeah, and then just really quick, just Robert Kirkman was recently interviewed on Comic let's see, it's comicbookmovie.com, and this is what he said about season 5, or the remaining of season 5. He said the biggest thing for season 5 is that the story completely changes. There's a mission to this season, this mission of getting to Washington, and if there's a cure there, if there's an infrastructure there and security there. What is it that is actually in Washington? I think that having our characters suddenly be driven with a goal that they can actually accomplish is changing how we tell stories in a big way. The episodes this season are going to feel a bit different than how the shows felt before.
Well, we'll have to ask Eugene next week.
That's right.
What's in Washington, Eugene?
What's in
next
Washington?
Week. Tune in to find out.
That's right.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Once again, I'm Dave Klein. You can find me on Twitter at @TheDaveKlein. That is Klein.
And you can find me at Derrial Christon on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and also on our sister company, Black Hollywood Live.
And we'll see you guys next time. Later.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.